A train bound for Chicago is in motion. Captain Coulter Stevens, a U.S. Army pilot, regains consciousness on board, baffled by his surroundings. A woman named Christina starts chatting with him and addresses him as Sean. Coulter scans the train anxiously, distracted by every little movement. He's so disoriented that he ignores the conductor asking for his ticket. Coulter is tense with Christina too, especially when she tries to assist him in locating his ticket. She questions his odd behavior, but Coulter admits that he doesn't recognize her. Stepping outside briefly in an attempt to make sense of his situation, he soon returns to his seat beside Christina. Suddenly, his reflection in the window reveals a stranger's face. Alarmed, Coulter rushes to the restroom and stares at a completely unfamiliar man in the mirror. Checking the wallet confirms it. The ID belongs to the same unknown face. Outside the restroom, Christina waits for him. Coulter tells her he doesn't know who Sean is, or who she is for that matter. Without warning, the train is engulfed in an explosion. Coulter awakens elsewhere, hearing a woman's voice addressing him from what appears to be a different reality. She tells him he's with Beleaguered Castle and asks whether he's functional. Still dazed, Coulter is unable to answer her questions about the explosion. The woman presses him for details about the blast. He asks who she is, and her image appears on a monitor. She says he already knows that and begins a memory rebuilding procedure, reading from a passage as images play on screen. Coulter, distracted, struggles against his restraints while she proceeds. Then, fragments of the passage trigger his memory and he repeats them back. When she asks for her name, he identifies her as Goodwin. Another figure, Rutledge, briefly appears on a monitor. Coulter tries to ask for his father, but Goodwin redirects him, insisting on discussing the train bombing. She tells him not to worry about Christina, calling him Sean. It's not important. Coulter doesn't know who planted the bomb, so Goodwin informs him that he'll be sent back again for 8 more minutes. Coulter suspects he's in a simulation, but Goodwin offers no clarity, simply repeating that he needs to uncover more about the train. Find the bomb, find the bomber. Back on the train, Christina tells him she quit her job and is planning to take the LSAT. A soda can pops open. A woman spills coffee on his foot. Coulter notes aloud that, although it's the same train, something feels off. Christina takes it as a profound comment. He starts a timer on his watch and remains convinced he's in some kind of simulated environment. Looking for clues, Coulter questions a passenger about the delay. The man jokes, prompting Christina to say he's a comedian. Scanning the car for anything suspicious, Coulter sees a student return a wallet. He recalls that the blast originated behind him. Heading to the restroom, he inspects the vent and finds it tampered with. Inside, he discovers the bomb. Believing Goodwin can hear him, Coulter begins talking aloud, hoping for guidance. Leaving the device untouched, he decides to try a new approach. Returning to the car, he pretends to be a transit security officer, announcing a potential breach and requesting that all passengers stop using electronic devices. Most are skeptical. When one man continues using his laptop, Coulter shuts it and breaks the man's jaw. Christina rushes to help, but Coulter dismisses her concern, saying none of it is real. The train explodes again. Back in the capsule, Goodwin tells him to calm down and stabilize. She asks about the bomb and Coulter confirms he found it. He now insists on speaking with Rutledge, having realized that Rutledge is her superior. Coulter recalls being in Afghanistan just 2 days ago, but Goodwin informs him it's actually been 2 months. Still bewildered, he answers her questions about the train. She stresses that this isn't a simulation. Real lives are in danger. Coulter asks for more answers before continuing the mission. Goodwin asks Rutledge if she's allowed to share more details with Coulter. After getting approval, she tells him the train he was on had already been destroyed earlier that morning, and more attacks are believed to be imminent. Sean Fentress had been a passenger on that train, and now Coulter is essentially inside his body. Though confused, Coulter begins relaying what he discovered. He describes where he located the explosive and what kind of detonator was used. Goodwin clarifies that the bomb was timed to detonate just as a freight train passed, maximizing the destruction by consuming both trains in the blast. She explains that the perpetrator had to be nearby to witness the timing and trigger the device manually. Goodwin urges Coulter to focus solely on the passengers and stick to the specific objectives she gives him. Coulter is sent back again. Back on the train, he finds himself in the middle of the same exchange as before. A woman accidentally spills coffee on Christina's shoes, and her gentle reaction prompts Coulter to remark on her kindness. He's beginning to believe she might actually be real. He approaches the conductor with questions about the other passengers' behavior, only to be told that he's the one acting strangely. Coulter then turns to Christina, asking if anyone on the train seems suspicious. He invites her to sit next to him, framing it as a game. Christina plays along and jokes about all the fellow passengers, saying that Coulter likely knows them better since he always chats with them. Suddenly, Coulter notices a man exiting the restroom. Christina jokes about profiling when he mentions it, but adds that it was the only person she's seen come out of there. That makes Coulter pause. Searching through Sean's belongings, he finds Christina's name jotted in a notebook but little else. Convinced the man might be suspicious, he drags Christina along and follows the guy into the station. Coulter tells Christina to wait while he tails the man into the restroom. He hears him vomiting in a stall and confronts him, making the man visibly nervous. The man exits with Coulter close behind. Sitting together on a bench, Coulter asks to borrow his phone. The man, uncomfortable, declines. Coulter grows more aggressive, demanding the phone and eventually attacking him. The man flees and just then another explosion hits the train. Coulter suspects he may have found the bomber. Still uncertain, Coulter pursues him once more. This time, the man shoves him onto the tracks. Coulter doesn't get up quickly enough and is struck by an oncoming train. He wakes again, but this time he's not receiving instructions from beleaguered Castle, nor can they hear from him. The space around him feels icy cold and begins to power down. A technician with Goodwin warns that Coulter is in serious danger. They rush to Rutledge, who says this is unprecedented and instructs them to keep trying to reach him with signals. Meanwhile, Coulter finds a tool kit in his frozen capsule and manages to reboot the system. As he restores power, he starts to hear distorted voices. Rutledge appears seated at Goodwin's station. Coulter hears her voice reading the same passage again and tries calling out to her. Rutledge addresses him directly, confirming he's the creator of the system Coulter is inside and that he's overseeing the mission. Coulter tells Rutledge he was able to save a passenger, but Goodwin returns and reminds him that rescuing people isn't part of his assignment. Coulter insists that the woman, Christina, survived. Rutledge counters that she only lives within the source code. When Coulter asks what that means, Rutledge explains, it's not time travel. The source code operates more like time reassignment. Coulter isn't going back into the past, but instead entering a reconstructed version of it through the memories of Sean. Fentress, it's a separate reality and Coulter is simply observing through Sean's eyes. Still clinging to the belief he saved someone, Coulter gives Goodwin Christina's name, and she looks her up. She informs him that Christina died that morning on the train. Coulter struggles to process this, but there's no time to dwell. They suspect a second attack is imminent in downtown Chicago. Intelligence points to the possibility of a dirty bomb, and the city is being evacuated as a precaution. The military believes that if Coulter can identify the bomber behind the train attack, they might be able to stop a second, larger assault. Before sending him back in, Goodwin tells him there's a handgun stashed on the train and gives him full authorization to use whatever force is necessary. Coulter wakes up on the train again, disheartened to see Christina still there, her presence reminding him of the stakes. As they talk, it's becoming clear that Coulter is starting to fall for her. But duty calls. He searches for the gun and finds it exactly where Goodwin said it would be. Just as he retrieves it, the conductor catches him. Breaking into the safe, Coulter points the gun at him but is suddenly tossed by another conductor and knocked out. He wakes up back on the train, Christina beside him once again, questioning what he's doing. Out of time and ideas, Coulter asks her what she would do if she had only 1 minute left to live. He then tells her he'd use that minute to call his dad and apologize. Christina tries to comfort him, saying everything will be okay, just before the train explodes once more, before he's pulled. From the source code, Coulter experiences vivid, emotional flashes, visions of Christina and fragmented memories. Once back, he tells Goodwin that giving him the gun was a mistake and makes a request. He wants to talk to his father. Goodwin brushes it off, saying she'll try, but it's clear she doesn't intend to follow through. Confused about his situation, Coulter asks how he's really doing. Goodwin steps aside and reveals where his physical form is being kept. She tells him that she herself has never entered the source code. The criteria for viable candidates are incredibly strict. Wanting to avoid further delays, she reassures Coulter he's doing well and sends him back to keep searching through passengers' belongings. This time, Coulter wastes no time. He quickly gets to work and pulls out a military patch that Goodwin had shown him earlier. Christina approaches and he asks her to help him find someone, his friend who went missing in Afghanistan. He even gives her his real name to aid the search. Then Coulter notices a man talking on the phone suspiciously. He checks the man's bag but finds nothing. Another woman nearby is carrying a medical bag from an army hospital. He asks her about the patch's insignia. She tells him the initials stand for Air Force and the final part represents Nellis Air Force Base. Borrowing her phone, Coulter calls Nellis and asks the operator to connect him to Rutledge, saying that Captain Coulter Stevens is calling. Christina returns, telling him she found his friend, who was killed in action 2 months ago. Haunted, Coulter begins recalling memories from Afghanistan. Goodwin's voice echoes in his head, guiding him through a mental exercise to stabilize him. When he regains consciousness in the capsule, he immediately confronts Goodwin. "Am I dead?" He says he found an article online confirming his death and that his father had received a posthumous medal in his honor. Goodwin tells him to stay focused on the mission, the train, but Coulter demands answers. She reluctantly admits that only a portion of his brain remains active, and that his current physical form is just a projection. He asks if the capsule is also imaginary. She confirms it is but doesn't disclose where his actual body is being kept. Rutledge steps in, insisting they send Coulter back to stop the second attack. Coulter argues with the ethics of the source code. He says he called Rutledge earlier from the train. The doctor tells him he never got such a call, and even if he had, it would have gone to a different version of him in a separate reality. Still skeptical, Coulter is told the project was authorized by a military tribunal and that many wounded soldiers would see this as a second chance, better than death, but Coulter responds bluntly, "For some of us, death is enough." Rutledge promises that once the mission is complete, they'll let him die. As he prepares to return Coulter to the train, he reminds him that 2 million American lives are at stake. If Coulter no longer values his own life, Rutledge says, then at least he should value theirs. Rutledge begins sending Coulter back into the train simulation repeatedly, offering him no rest between attempts. He tells Coulter they'll keep going until the bomber is found. Exhausted, Coulter says he can't do it anymore, but Rutledge manipulates him emotionally. He plays a recording of Coulter's father speaking in an interview after his son's death, expressing deep regret that they never truly understood each other. Moved by the message, Coulter agrees to go back in. Once on the train, Coulter wastes no time. He finds the bomb and removes the detonator phone, calling the only number in its history. A man answers, and as Coulter moves through the train, he quietly tells the person to turn around. A man ahead of him does, and Coulter realizes he has the right person. He sits beside him, pulls out the gun, and demands the truth. The man claims he was just talking to his wife, so Coulter forces him to call the number again. When a different phone rings, Coulter apologizes and follows the sound. He spots a man placing his wallet back on a seat and finally learns his name, Derek Frost. When Derek gets off the train, Coulter uses the emergency handle to pry open the door and jump off in pursuit. He sees Derek climb into a white van and confronts him with the phone. Derek pretends not to recognize it, but Coulter knows he's lying. He reveals the second bomb in the van and demands to know the next target. Just then, Christina arrives, and Derek shoots them both. Though wounded, Coulter survives long enough to hear Derek deliver his twisted justification. The world is broken and must be destroyed in order to be rebuilt. Derek drives off and the bomb on the train explodes again. Back in the capsule, Coulter regains consciousness with a clearer vision of everything. He urgently informs Goodwin and Rutledge about the bomber, the van, and confirms that the second bomb is radioactive. They congratulate him and declare the mission complete. As they prepare to shut down his consciousness, Coulter begs them for one last chance to go back, this time to save the people on the train. Meanwhile, Derek Frost is arrested before he can detonate the second bomb. Rutledge basks in praise from his superiors, while Goodwin returns to speak with Coulter. They discuss parallel realities and the idea that each version of a person might be different across timelines. Goodwin believes Coulter only saw shadows of the people who died, but Coulter insists there was a failsafe on the bomb he hadn't noticed before, meaning change is possible. He begs her to send him back in without authorization and then terminate his life support when the mission ends. After hesitating, Goodwin agrees. She tells him she'll shut everything down at the end of this final run. Coulter promises he'll save Christina. Goodwin tells him it's been an honor and wishes him luck. Back on the train for the final time, Coulter asks Christina out for coffee. She happily agrees. He then quickly disarms both detonators. On his way past Derek, he picks up the conductor's handcuffs. While the simulation runs, Rutledge gets more glowing reviews and orders Coulter's memory wiped and prepared for another mission. Goodwin, clearly disapproving, remains silent. Coulter stops Derek before he can escape, cuffs him to the bar, and calls the police to report the radioactive bomb in the van. He also sends an email to Goodwin and calls his father. Pretending to be a friend, he delivers the message that Coulter wanted to say before his death, that he's sorry. Meanwhile, Goodwin visits the facility where Coulter's real body is stored. She opens the chamber and sees the tragic condition he's in. On the phone, Coulter's dad responds emotionally, saying he wishes he'd told his son that he loved him. Coulter quietly says he already knows. Back on the train, Coulter returns to Christina. Rutledge learns that Goodwin is with Coulter's body and sends military police to stop her. He tries to unlock the door to the chamber, but Goodwin waits out Coulter's final 8 minutes. As time runs out, Coulter asks Christina what she would do if she had less than a minute left to live. She replies, "I'd make those seconds count." He kisses her. In the real world, Goodwin turns off his life support, and the MPs arrive too late to stop it. They find only Coulter's lifeless body, but on the train the explosion never happens. Coulter smiles and tells Christina that everything is going to be okay. They step off the train together and walk to the Chicago Bean. As they stand before the sculpture, Coulter realizes that the visions he had during his transitions were of this very moment. If you enjoyed the recap, please leave a like and subscribe, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you can watch more videos like this. Thanks for watching.